Hey there guys, how's it going? My name's The Reaper, and in today's video we are having another Indie Limelight, and this time we are taking a look at a really interesting single-player RPG called Fictorum. So as always, just to clarify with these Indie Limelight videos, none of these are paid promotions. These are purely me having a case of me coming across indie titles I like the look of, but I think it's a bit harsh to do kind of a review on an indie game, especially if it's still in early access. So basically I created the series to, if the developer is willing to give me a copy of the game, or sometimes I might buy it outright, and is happy for me to do a video on it, I can use my admittedly meagre subscriber base and viewer base just to kind of show the game off, looking at the game with a less critical eye than maybe a AAA title, just to kind of maybe do what I can to help out a small developer, show off the game, show off the title, just get people knowing about it, getting the word of mouth out there, so to speak. So this is not a paid promotion. I'm not getting any inducements, any benefits, or any advantages in any way of me making this video. I actually approached them. They kind of gave me a press copy so I can make a video of the game, but that's all that's been given to me. I've just had a press copy just so I can make a video on the game, which I obviously approached them to do rather than the other way around. So just sort of make that clear off the bat. This is the case with all the Indie Limelight titles, although this is the only second video I've got. So now I've got out of the way, Fictorum is a really interesting single-player RPG. One of its very interesting, unique mechanics is something, I don't think it has an official name, I've just been calling it spell weaving. Essentially, you play a Fictorum, which is basically the last, or one of the last in a series of very powerful mages. And you're being hunted by a group called the Inquisition, so basically you're trying to go from town to town, survive, and you're being hunted by the Inquisition as you go. You'll have to fight them as you go. You also have to fight the Corrupted as you go, which are another pretty deadly race of beings. And essentially, as a mage, you have some really interesting spell weaving mechanics. So essentially what I mean by that is, say you start out with a fireball. Now the idea of the spell weaving is you can customize your spells on the fly in combat. So for example, if I want to chuck out a fireball, I can just chuck out a fireball as I go on. What I can also do is I can attach various runes, up to 3 runes to any one spell, and I can have up to 4 main spells. So say for example I've got that fireball, say there's a big group of enemies coming towards me, and they're in a kind of slightly spread out area. I can, as I'm casting that fireball, I can attach one of the runes, say for example a high explosive rune, which makes it do slightly more damage and increases the radius. So I've got a big group, I can hit all of them at once if I attach that rune. I can maybe I've got a smaller cluster group of enemies, but a large group, I can attach a persistent damage rune, which is going to increase my damage over time if I hit them with that fireball. Or I can attach both if I want. The more you attach, the more mana you're going to use, but if you manage your mana carefully, you can attach as many on-the-fly kind of combinations of any of the spells you want. So I can attach a persistent, high area, multiple shot fireball. It's going to use more mana, but as long as I'm managing my mana carefully, I can, to my heart's content, throw out as many combinations of spells as I like, and that's for 3 different combinations on 3 different spells. 3 different combinations, up to 3 combinations on 4 different main spells, which is quite nice. So you've got a lot of different combinations to play with, and you can change spells out as you like between levels. So I think that's probably enough of the explanation, so I'm going to jump into my character. It's going to have a brief cut, and we'll go back to that. Okay, so I've just logged onto my character, who is represented on the map here by this wizard figure. So basically I've currently just got to chapter 4, so basically the way the world map works is, as I'm starting here, you're going to start on the left-hand side of the map. Currently I'm on the first point of actually, because I've just started this chapter. And these blue lines represent where I can move on to. So you basically move from left to right, and as you get to the end, which is this massive, the area here with the big kind of spire of red light, you need to get to that. If you can make it to that and survive the fight, you then move on to the next chapter, and you'll start from the left-hand side again. But you'll be a bit more powerful, and you'll be facing different types and more powerful types of enemies. So that's basically the way the system progresses. Eventually, the idea is you go on to fight the High Inquisitor. As you keep going on and on and on, you'll have to try and fight the bosses. As you move across the map, the the Inquisition, who are your enemy, as I said earlier, they're going to be chasing you across the map. So if you take too long to get across, the Inquisition could catch you, and that could put you in a lot of trouble. I won't spoil what does happen. So basically the blue lines represent anywhere I may want to move to. And also, nice little touch is, if I hover over one of the places I can move to, it will tell me where I can move from there. So if I go to this top place, I can go to those 2 adjacent mountains. You can go backwards if you want. And if I go to this one here, this small one here at the bottom, I can go to any of these adjacent things. So you can get a lot of options based on where you move. You can move back if you want. But basically, the game nicely tells you where you can move to and where you can move to from that point. So you can plan your route quite nicely as well. So as you go through, these are all going to be random encounters. So you're not going to be really sure what you're going to be encountering at each of these places. Could be you go straight into a fight. Could be you have a bit of a story thing, and you might get a couple of options about how you wish to proceed. So based on your circumstances, you can make a few choices about how you want to interact with other characters. So you can basically decide what your character is going to be like on any given day, which is nice. So while we're on the world map view, we're going to look at the inventory. So basically, these are my 4 spell books. You start out with 1 spell when you start the game, and as you go through the game, you're going to encounter more. So these are the 4 I've chosen to use. These are my 4 spell books I'm currently using. Inventory, so you've got various types of armor. That's pretty self-explanatory. Various armor, various pieces of equipment that go in various slots, and they give you various stat increases or decreases. That's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go too much into that. Only thing I would explain briefly is basically there's a lot of a few different decisions you can make. So, for example, heavier armor tends to be more protection, but will give you more penalties in terms of spell casting. So, for example, I'm using a bit of leather armor, which gives you some decent resistances. So you get magic resistances and physical resistances. You might get a move speed bonus. But in this case, I get minus 10% spell range and speed because I'm using a bit of heavy armor. If you use some plate armor, which I'm not currently using, in this case, that might give me a bit more. So it's minus 30% spell range and speed in this case. But that's balanced off with having a lot more protection. So you can build a bit tankier, but not be as good with spells, or you can play a bit lighter, but a bit squishier as well. So you've got an option there. These are my 4 spells. I've got Fireball, which is pretty self-explanatory. Flamethrower is kind of a channeled spell, so as long as I'm holding that down, I'm kind of pushing flame out with my hands. So that's going to drain my mana as I'm using it, and it's going to do damage over time. Lightning Orb sends out quite a cool little orb, and as that floats along very slowly forward, anyone gets too close to it is going to be zapped as they go past it. And Meteor is pretty cool, uses loads of mana, but does loads of damage, and after a short delay, it's just going to, as you might expect, drop a massive meteor and blow the crap out of everyone, which is very good fun. And these are the runes I was talking about. So for Fireball, I've currently got a High Velocity rune, a High Explosive rune, and a Persistent rune I was talking about earlier. So if I'm fighting, got a big group of enemies, I want to hit them all, I can use High Explosives, so a bit of extra damage, and a larger radius. High Velocity means it goes, the projectile actually flies faster. I can throw it further because I'm throwing it faster, and it's more likely to knock someone down, so it's got impact damage as well if it hits someone directly. And Persist does damage over time, so if I'm fighting some high health enemies, I can do some extra damage as long as I hit them all. So basically, as I cast that spell, I can use any combination of these 3 I like, up to all 3 if I want to, or I can just use 2 certain ones. But I can use whatever combination I feel like, but every combination you use, the more you use, the more mana you're going to use, and if you keep holding that spell down, it's going to drain more and more mana. So you do have a lot of power, but you've got to be careful about your mana consumption as well. So you can't just keep using everything all the time, because you're going to get yourself killed, because you're going to run out of mana, and I'll explain why that's bad, besides the obvious. These are your runes, so basically you encounter loads of these. Some only work with certain types of spells, so some of these, the red ones only work with fire spells. Some of them only work with projectile spells. Some of them only work with area spells, such as Trap. So I could do if I had Flame Strike, I could use that as a trap. So instead of it dropping down immediately, basically creates a big pillar of flame, I could set that up as a trap if I attach the trap room. So if they run in towards it and they run into that trap, that's going to set that off. So you've got loads of different combinations with loads of different spells. I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to go too far into that because I want to show them off. You've also got Enchanting. Basically, if you want to spend a bit of your essence, which is your currency, you can attach one of these that you're using and you can basically increase it for a small cost. So you can just increase how much of effect it has. Or if you've got loads, you can attach them and disenchant them. So hopefully I can disenchant this. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get I'm going to get 5 essence. I think this might be glitched. So if I get rid of this Ice Projectile 1, I can then disenchant that and I can get 100 of that. So if you've got excess runes you're not really using or you're not that fussed about, you can disenchant those, get a bit of currency back. So that basically explains the inventory system. That explains the map. The only other thing you need to worry about, one of the other mechanics, is the health system. You may notice I'm on just under half health. Mana and stamina regenerate pretty quickly. Health is permanently lost. Now this is one of the good mechanics of the game that I quite like. You have, as I was saying, loads of powerful combinations. The more spells you use, the more combination of runes you use, the more powerful spells you use, you're going to use mana. As you hold those spells down, if you hold them down for too long, your mana's going to run out. If you run out of mana, you will still hold that spell, but it's going to slowly start draining your health away. And health is lost permanently. It doesn't regenerate at the end of a level. It doesn't regenerate between maps. You have to be very careful about losing your health because it's permanently lost and it can only be restored in a few ways. One way is to go to these vendors. So any of these mountains that have got orbs above them, they're the vendors. So if I stop there, I can pay to get some of my health back, but that is quite expensive. There's also a few encounters you can go to where, if you're lucky, you can do an encounter. You might be able to rest at an inn and restore some of your health, but you probably have to pay for that as well. And occasionally there are a few things you can do to regenerate your health. You can rest. However, that's going to take a turn, and you can't keep doing that because the Inquisition is going to be chasing you. So if you've done well, you've got a bit of breathing room, you might be able to rest a night or two, get a little bit of health back, but the Inquisition is going to be chasing you, so you can't do that permanently. So the idea is you're very powerful, but if you don't manage your mana carefully, you're going to drain into your own health. If you play too aggressively and you take too much damage, you might be able to survive a fight taking a few hits. But how many fights can you survive before you get to that vendor and get your health back? I've got to survive on less than half health before I get to this vendor, or hopefully get a lucky encounter on one of these random encounters that gets me some health back. So I've got to play a bit carefully as well as playing aggressively. So that basically explains that point. So let's start moving. I think that's covered everything I need to know. Okay, so let's decide where we should go. So let's just try this centre one here. And let's see what we encounter. So it may not be a fight. I actually don't know what we're going to encounter here at the moment. So the Black Orcs clan had barely had a fire to warm them that frozen morning. At least it would only leave a whisper of smoke once they moved on. The clan endured a rough few weeks in an abandoned fort, scouting, stockpiling and clearing enemies that might put them in danger. They planned to take nearby New Milford, now finally within their grasp. A lone man in strange clothing appeared at the overlook, threatening the reward for their hardship. This is myself. Blah blah blah. Whoever that guy is was on watch atop the walls. Something about the man made him uneasy. He gripped his longbow tightly and called out, "Traveller, want a bit of dust? Move along and it's yours." So basically, I can go. In this case, he looked around and surveyed the fort. After a beat, he made his intentions clear as magic swirled around him. So basically, I can what looks like going straight into a fight, or take the money and kind of move on. So in this case, I'm going to play it safe, take the money. If they actually give it to me, they may not be. Gave me a small bit of thing and just says, "We'll be watching you." So he's decided not to do anything. That's the Inquisition. They've currently hit that mountain, so anything swirling means they've taken that mountain, and that's them moving across. So let's move across to here. I want to try and get to that vendor, because that's going to get me healed up. So let's go to here and see what happens. Kethorp. Kiri believed herself to be the most powerful mage in the region. She was upset that the Firebrand was gaining all the infamy that she believed that she was entitled. One of her scouts informed her that day that Adamant was passing through her town. Kiri smiled and prepared her disciples to gain notoriety that day. So it looks like I'm going to be going toe-to-toe with the mage. So I've got to be careful about my spells. And I've got to make sure we're avoiding their projectiles. So that's me. So that big tower thing is protecting the Nexus. So to leave the level, I need to get to the Nexus. But to unlock the Nexus, I need to destroy these towers, which is actually a nice opportunity to demonstrate Fireball. So we've got Fireball, Flamethrower, Lightning Orb, and Meteor. So if we go for a Fireball, that's the current arc. It's going to slow down time as I'm holding it. I'm going to go for a High Velocity, which is going to increase the arc. So I can lob this at long range, and as long as I hit that tower, and it's going to blow up, send rubble everywhere, and that's going to help unlock the Nexus. So there might be one more or two more towers I need to break down. So where's the enemy? So I can't see anyone down there. So as I was talking about earlier, fully destructible maps. So what I'm going to do immediately is drop a very high explosive meteor on this poor bloke's house, just to send rubble flying, get a bit of essence for that, and if that rubble hits anyone, it's going to take them out, which also helps me out. Let's go for a high impact, high explosive fireball. Looks like this woman's mage is going to give me a hard time. High impact, so that's a big target I need to take out. So if I go all in on this fireball, maybe I can hit her and take her down a bit. Oh, that was a multi-shot fireball. Took a slight hit there, not too bad. And let's see if we can fire out a lightning orb, which is going to help us out quite nicely. So this thing kind of goes out, and if it gets too close to anyone, it goes quite slowly, but anyone who gets too close is going to get zapped. I'm just going to send a couple of those out. Send another one out. So that's zapped and taking out one of the high damage. It's a good high damage spell, so it's going to take out any pesky mages which may want to, which kind of are a bit more resistant to area effect spells, need a bit more damage, a bit more precision to take them out. Looks like I've dealt to them, so I've got quite a few more enemies left. We might have taken a few out. Oh, we've got guys behind us, there's where they are. So let's send out another lightning orb. That's going to take its time, that's going to be of use to us. Let's get up to a bit of high ground as we avoid these. That's taken them out. I just like to send the lightning orb out a bit earlier on. If anyone wants to get a bit closer to me, let's see if we can hit these guys with a big meteor, high explosive. Don't want to hold that for too long. Oh, only actually hit one guy there, so that was a bit of a letdown, but maybe I can hit these guys once my mana's back. That looks a bit better. Goodbye. Ooh, you had a bad day, mate. Nice little vantage point here. Let's send down another lightning orb to help deal with these guys. So you move around. Need to be careful not to fall off. There we go. So what should we do next? That's done nice. Yeah, we do like my lightning orb. Just nice high. Doesn't hit very many targets, but still useful. And let's see if we can hit a meteor on these guys. Oh, did we get them? I don't mind too much if I don't hit them, it's just such a fun spell to use. That's not a good place to stand, my friend. High explosive meteor. Oh, he's smart enough to move, and he got out of range. Let's try a lightning orb on him. And let's do a fireball to deal with these guys, but easier to cast. Oh, managed to hit most of those actually, that was quite good. A lot of enemies today. Lightning orb. Zap him. Just wait for mana to get back, I'm going to take the time, just avoid these guys, and we can drop another meteor on them hopefully. Maybe I'm overplaying meteor slightly. Oh, I've been stunned.
Not enough mana.
Nice stun. Stop it. The lightning orb doesn't get you. No, it did. I'm kind of not doing a very good job of showing off meteor actually. It's such a fun spell to use and normally can hit like half a dozen people with it. They're moving around too much. Now we're still alive, haven't taken too much damage. Let's just blow up this building because the buildings don't move. Bit better if they're standing near a building because normally you can just blow the building up and let the rubble deal with them. Which is a really nice touch, as well as just being it's cool that the fact you can blow everything up kind of very precisely, and it kind of all the different rubble scatters out in different ways. Who was that? Who's that? Where are they? Oh, there they are. Right. Call that a lightning orb, that's a lightning orb. You don't know how to take your time. Right, you're dead. Now I've killed all the quest enemies, so I need to blow up the one more Nexus tower to blow up. What's in here? Can I pick stuff up? I don't think I can pick something up. Maybe I can't. No, never mind. And just hit the top of that tower. And that's going to unlock our Nexus, so we can now escape the level. And that's a... took a little bit of damage, but we dealt with quite a few people there, and hopefully we can get some rewards. Ooh, nice ring. What does that do? 73 health, that's quite a lot of ring. And Gravity Well, what does that do? Tear in space that pulls nearby objects by me. That's interesting. I haven't actually tried that. Might be able to try that out. That's a brand new thing. Some plate armor, multi-shot, projectile area spells, phalanx scrolls. We've got some interesting stuff here. We're going to have to dump a lot of this, unfortunately. So we can swap out our blink ring, I think. So that does a blink ring. So in this case, we can get some more health. And we can go to Gravity Well. So we can try that out next time. So blink ring I want to hold on to, so I'm going to dump something I'm not really going to use, so I can get rid of this. Keep my blink ring, and this equipment I'm probably not going to use. Mana regeneration. Yeah, we can try these actually. And this armor's worth a bit, but I'm probably not going to end up using it. So let's just get rid of something cheap that we don't want. Let's get rid of that. So we can just sell that on later when we get to the vendor, so we can save a bit of money. So let's move on to this one, because so next time we can get to the vendor. So apply a couple more levels, and I think that's probably going to give a good explanation of how this game works. So the afternoon sun smiled on Adamant as he travelled through Malvinwood. He actually found himself enjoying the sprawling views of the glistening peaks and the misty valleys below. Sadly, his enjoyment was short-lived. He heard a gasp in the distance and spotted a flash of red leathers as a man disappeared into the dense forest. An Inquisition scout? So, scratching his beard, Fictorum cursed himself for the distraction. He immediately began to hunt the man in red. Or you can just kind of go on your way. So in this case, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go on my way. I'm going to do the boring thing. Decided, blah blah blah. Yeah, so basically in that case I decided not to push my luck. So let's go to the vendor here. So the vendors are always guaranteed of stuff. So, we've got a few options of stuff we can buy. And we can heal ourselves. So 102 essence to fully heal ourselves. That's quite a lot. We're probably not going to do a full heal, but we are going to spend a bit just to get kind of most of our health back, so that's probably enough. And we can get rid of all this expensive but valuable plate armor that we don't really want and is clogging up our inventory. And what else has he got? A few things for sale. Ice Blast Totem, Armoured Robes of the Bear, Chainmail Gloves. Those are quite nice robes actually. A lot of extra health, lose a bit of mana. Might try these out actually. So let's try those robes out. And we've got a new spell, Ice Blast. Yeah, we're probably not going to try that out immediately. And this ring is going to give us a different channel spell. So we're going to ignore that for now. Any runes we may want, we're going to ignore for now, just to make the video a bit shorter. Maybe I should have picked some of those up, but we'll see. And we'll move a bit further onto here, just so we can get to another vendor if we can. We probably won't need to in this video, but let's just see how we get on. So, Estavots. Wilcock, barely 13, fled the shoddy orphanage he'd been assigned to in Estavots. If it wasn't a storm, it was a gang of bandits or crooked half-wits masquerading as dark wizards, looting and killing everyone he ever cared about. He headed for the forest, deciding he was better off taking care of himself over there. Less conspicuous, too. While building shelter in the evening light, he noticed something moving between the trees. "Halt, stranger," he yelled, his voice cracking, excuse me. "Stay away if you value your life." I'm going to stop narrating all these. So in this case, it's me, so I can go up to him and start lecturing him, or I can just move on. I'm just going to move on. In this case, just to make things moving, and let's move on to maybe one more fight, and that's probably going to give enough of an explanation of how this game works. So I'm not going to read all this out loud, just going to kind of skim read it. So I can kill some incoming corrupted, or I've got no time for distractions. Basically, a guy's giving me a note saying I can maybe deal with some corrupted. So let's try to deal with them, and that will show off some different kind of enemy types. So these guys tend to have more melee guys, so they might come up close and personal and try and deal with me then. I'm going to quickly switch out one of my spells. I'm going to get rid of Flamethrower and go back to Flame Strike, just because it's more interesting. And let's see how we get on with that. Let's put Manifest on there. So you can change mid-battle. It's not always the best idea. I've no idea what this thing does. Quite a long cooldown though. Should I run into this? So what is this? What's the explanation of this? Tearing space that pulls nearby objects. I don't know if it works on people, but there's lots of them. So they're coming in here, so let's test our new high explosive Flame Strike, because it's a lot more fun than probably Flamethrower. Let's just hit this guy with a fireball. So these are coming kind of some of the more basic guys, so I can deal with these fairly easily, he says. There we go. Thankfully you don't get damaged by your own spells. Lightning Orb. Oop, can't blink out of the way. Let's try our new weird vortex thing. I think it only works on objects, so let's just get out of the way. However, this ring does give me quite a lot of health. Let's go for another Flame Strike. And let's just knock this guy down. Oh, that's some spells. I want to avoid those. We cast this on a building. Is it going to pull the building in? Oh, it does work on these guys. Oh, there's a lot of guys over there, though. Let's run out the way, see if we can hit them with a nicely timed Flame Strike. Is that nicely timed enough? Oh god, this is very dangerous. Isn't always this difficult. I'm just getting a bit further on in the game, so let's try to sort of ramp up the difficulty slightly. So let's go for a high explosive fireball. And let's go for a high explosive Flame Strike. Got a bit more mana on me now, so it's a bit easier to cast this. When I first got this, I tended to kill myself a little bit too easily. There's a big lot here, so let's go for persistent damage over time on these boys. Have a good night, lads. Let's get ourselves out of the way. Then we can pull these guys all in together. Nope, that didn't work at all. Being chased. Just about enough room to get this off. Good night, lads. All of me hit. This is hectic, just got to run around a bit. Right, we've got left, right. Let's deal with some of these magic users. Maybe some high impact fireballs will deal with some of these. Persistent damage, might be able to hit two at once. Oh, nice blink out of the way there. Right, solid, let's just meteor all these boys. Why is Meteor not working for me today? This is exciting. Right, Lightning Orb. Let's try Lightning Orb, that always works. If they come to me, it's going to take them out. Oh my word, this is horrendous. I've been stunned as well. Lightning Orb. Save me. One zapping. There we go. Another Lightning Orb. Zapping. Oh, I'm not suggesting that was the most optimum use of things, however it did seem to work, in a manner of speaking. All the quest enemies are killed. So that's the corrupted, so they just kind of a slightly different type of enemy, so that kind of just shows them off a bit. That was a bloody hectic fight. So let's get out of here, and then after this I'll probably go to the vendor and just pick up some health, but we don't need to show that on this video. So hopefully that's probably enough. I hope that makes everything clear, shows off the game. Sorry if it's a bit hectic, got a few more rewards. And I've got another meteor tome, so that's fine. So hopefully that gives all you guys a clear enough impression of what the game is like. So it comes out in a couple of days' time. So if you've got any other questions about the game, please leave them below in the comments. I'll leave a link to the website of the guys who make Fictorum in the description of the video. And other than that, I think that covers about everything. So if you like the video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you did so, any other feedback, please by all means let me know. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for joining me.